3 of the IEEE Summer School on Computational Intelligence in Games Development. Uh, so today we are going to be talking about games jams in the starting session, and later on today we're going to have Matthew talk again. What's the presentation again on?
Game AI.
Game AI. So look, stay tuned for that. And then later on today, I'm going to be talking about how various game companies take your money.
Sounds good. Ah,
Okay.
hop squat. Grab a chair. Yeah, I'm in frame here. All right, everyone scoot to the front again. Come closer. I don't bite.
Unless you want them to.
Okay. Yeah, so obviously we're gonna go over game jams. Obviously we can talk about what jams are out there that we like. A couple of different ones that we thought are pretty good. You know what I'll do here is I will turn on the side screen here from the room PC. Oh, that's the wrong one. Well,
Dodge. Look
go
out.
for that for now. Well, maybe someone could see a little bit of it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. Um, just so you guys can sort of see what I'm looking at on the screen here. Stream, you'll see it through the camera. It's fine. It's more of a discussion point than an actual relevant presentation or anything like that. Um, so yeah, I reckon we'll just go through the jams that are out there, ones we've seen, ones we've heard of, ones we've participated in, what we thought about them, and then some tips and tricks that people have. Maybe if we want to, we can do a little practice brainstorming session for one of the jams that are going on right now, just for fun. Could be a fun thing. A little exercise there. So yeah, I alluded to it yesterday, but there's the Pirate Software Game Jam. This one just started 2 days ago.
So is the point that you're actually going to make a game about pirates, or that you have to actually pirate software in order to make a game?
I don't know. I just know it's big.
Okay.
As you can see from the 15.2K that have signed up.
You're you're only allowed to have one eye in order to participate. That's the like wear an eye patch the entire time.
You go to your page, but there's an about. Oh, not that page, but on the jam page. On the jam page, yeah, no, for sure.
They're giving a lot of basic info here.
Yeah. So what's a game jam? Can I make a game?
We got theme.
Yes, this is the revealed theme here. So it's Shadows and Alchemy here. They combine two, I guess what they do is they put a list of themes out to the public, and the top two get put together as the one theme for the jam, which is cool. Obviously there's like a ton of stuff besides lights. You can do like shadow of a person, right? Like shadow side yourself. Kind of like the Heartless and Kingdom Hearts.
I'm
There's
starting to
shadows.
see this happen a lot more in a lot of the game jams too. No AI generated content, and I'm assuming that they're talking about that's not generated by your own AI that you've built, but more of like
Yeah, I
if
think
you're
you can
using
still
Midjourney
not
for
use
images,
Midjourney
yeah,
or Copilot image generation stuff like that.
yeah.
Uh,
And I think that this is kind of the direction that a lot of these jams are starting to go into, bless you, in order to kind of keep it on a learning experience, right?
Last year, Game Maker's Toolkit put his jam out and he didn't include anything about it. So he had to put out a following up redaction on it where he's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear enough about this. So he like, it's a big thing with the community right now, especially with like game artists. They are
Hmm.
not excited about Midjourney for the most part.
Yeah, and also licensing for it too, if you notice the about commercial licenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty standard one. Nice thing is this one is prize supported. That doesn't necessarily mean you should only participate in jams with prize support. More about the restrictions, sort of push you into being creative, but pretty nice there. They've got some titles, some awards, some access to their Discord there, and then $100 coverage to upload your game to Steam, which I don't know how much that equates to. I don't know if you've looked into monetization too much on Steam.
Usually there is now, I believe, actually $100 upload fee for anything under a certain size. That was mostly to kind of keep all those kind of scam games off
Get the
because
bloatware off.
yeah, Steam is a really good platform from the perspective of anyone can put whatever they want on it now. Steam is a terrible platform from the fact that they can put anything you want up there now.
Funnily enough, the thing I think is more valuable here is the personal feedback from everyone, because they've got like a section of game designers who would like give you feedback on your game, which I think is pretty cool. So that one just started. Um, Pretty cool. And then the Kenny Jam I was telling you about also just started as well. This one here Where on this one you have access to whatever you want to make. The Kenny Jam, the whole idea is that you just use his stuff, right? And Kenny's is like a really good, high quality collection of free stuff. And he's always going back and updating his
Mm.
old stuff so it's better as well.
It'd be nice if anyone could understand a single word that he says, though.
Kenny? Oh yes,
Three
I got it. I got it. No, that makes sense. But yeah, you can see it
Oh
here.
my gosh, Kenny made a jam.
Yeah, he started doing YouTube videos as well, which is
Mm.
kind of neat, where he talks about game design principles a bit. So he was going over like UI in the first one he did. Very nice. And then yeah, so you would make a game jam using all of his stuff. There are 12 pages of assets, which is what 4 by 4, so 16, so 12 by 16. It's a lot to work with. The other one that's kind of harder to find is if I can log into Discord without revealing too much information. Uh, Cinti is doing their own game jam as well. I don't want to do that. Okay. Let's see if I can find it. Cinti game jam here. No, I'm good. They did this previously, which was cool. For the Global Game Jam when it happens.
Yeah.
Cinti partners with them often. When is this Global Game Jam?
Global Game Jam is a good one too. They do a lot of video. Oh,
Global
you're
Game
not a
Jam
fan?
is recently on the other director, embrace generative AI stuff.
Oh,
It's doing
okay.
a really nice job in terms of connecting like voice actors and things like that to
Hmm.
game teams and things like that. There's a lot of like trying to make connections and things like that.
Yeah.
They've entirely abandoned that.
Okay.
Said, okay, well, everybody should just be using these like
The last
text-to-speech tools.
Yeah, the last time I participated was about 2 years ago, and it was like it seemed, at least at the time, to be pretty good, but they've changed that in the recent history.
Back again, but certainly in
Yeah.
summer 2023, they started suddenly going like, oh wow, we can have all these tools available through the jam. This is
Yeah.
great, without really thinking through the implications.
Yeah, because even before that, they were really good at sending out tools and doing a lot of like on-site speeches of different academics and industry partners, and yeah.
Well, the thing with the Global Game Jam, right, is that it's actually just whatever global group.
Yeah.
It's local, yeah. So it's kind of
Was good.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like obviously go for it. But I think the top level org is has some interesting strategic decisions that they're doing.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to hear.
So another thing to note here, like I was telling you guys, is Cinti, I guess it's technically an image jam, which is more of an art thing, but if you wanted to, uh, they are doing an image jam right now where the idea is that like you take their assets and sort of compile them to make images based off their themes. So there's also that. So at least there's the two jams going on right now. Does Kenny have a theme at least? Oh yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
it's in the big
Big
bold
The big
text.
bold thing that says connection.
And it's even other languages in case
I see
in
that.
English.
It's too bad I can't read English apparently.
It's too bad you can't read any language known to man.
It's a
Yeah.
real shame.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm bilingual. I speak, or I'm multilingual. I speak C sharp, Python, English.
I speak
fluently.
English and bad English.
Um, one that's a little harder to find as well is Lurundare. They also do game jams, and they do them often. Let's see,
Well,
or they
the
used
big
to.
one, which is annual, but then they have lots of supplements.
Hmm. So we'll see Lurundare 54. Well, how do you know which one's the big one? There's three that all just have numbers.
Because they number it. So Ludogorets 51 is the big one because it's the 51st first of these big Ludogorets. And then they'll have smaller ones that have like subtitles and things.
So it's like UFC,
Yeah.
right? There's the numbered UFCs and then there's fight nights. Yeah.
Those are the big ones.
The other one that's pretty cool is Godot Jam. They do this every month. Yeah, Godot Jam is every month. Looks like it ends in 2 days. So realistically, right now we've got 3 different game jams going on right now.
Might be worth also pointing out that there's just the itch.io game jam.
Yes, the page I had open here.
This is a great
Yeah.
There's a lot.
things that might fit your interests.
Yeah, let's see what this one looks like here. If we bring it down a little bit.
A lot of the bigger ones are not going to be listed on here, like Ludogorets is not going to be, Global Game Jam's not going to be, but any sort of the smaller, individually hosted by a particular like big social media name like Game Maker's
Yeah.
Toolkit, for example, probably be on here.
Magical Girl Jam.
Yeah, sure.
Lots of game jams on here though. Like as you can see, I don't even know how many that is going on row wise, but it's too many for me right now.
You,
Uh,
you, you can basically bounce from one to another, right? It's just
oh yeah, you could
almost
make
continual.
you could spend literally your full calendar year doing game jam after game jam after game jam. I wouldn't because I'd probably get burnt out, but you can. I like Mech Jam there. That's pretty cool. Let's see what that one's about. I like the Gundam logo. What do we got here? Mechs, Mecha, nice. Fifth one, nice. Secondary themes. So I guess they always just do a mech theme and then they've got a list of secondary themes you can put in as well.
Hmm.
Indie devs. Can we sort it by? No, you can't sort it. Really, you can just do participation's 100. All right, lots of jams, as like you're saying there. So obviously game jams constantly. If you're looking for a game jam, there's one going on. uh, there's the more indie ones, and then I mean 9 times out of 10, there's probably literally like one of the bigger ones going on as well. And how often they're doing it. Um, we used to do game jams once per semester through the Game Development Club. Took a year off there. The funniest thing is, they're not a lot of crap. You just sort of book through them and you go, okay, everyone, this is the current theme. Go have fun, like build teams or whatever, right? So I think this coming year we're going to try making that happen more. At least once per semester, the Game Development Club will probably do a game jam each one. Either probably the Global Game Jam or Ludum Dare or maybe a Godot Jam if there isn't one of the other ones going off at a convenient time. Probably one of those three. Obviously, GMTK's jam is during the summer, so that one's not going to work for that. But there's lots of them, obviously, and you can participate yourself whenever you want. Also, if you're in the Game Dev Discord, uh, there is a channel for game jams, so you can share ones you see, and you can also do like
I mean,
looking for group and stuff too,
we can
right?
even just have our own and create our own system for it because I could just call it the Joey Jam and I'll
Yeah.
just, come up with a topic and say go to town for a week.
I mean, realistically, that's all it takes for something
Yeah,
like this,
it is.
right?
It is.
Itch.io, you can upload your game, then you share the link, and you playtest it from downloading from itch. Like, it is not hard to pick a theme and say, this is my game jam, go, right? One thing that was kind of fun in a similar vein is we did a game pitching event once, which was kind of cool. Let's see if I can find the files for that, actually.
So more from the design perspective than from the
Yeah, so
programming.
this is the one we came up with. It was called Isolation. Let me see if I can find the PowerPoint though. I don't think I have the PowerPoint anymore. That's sad. Uh, but the idea for ours, it was literally like a pitching thing, and I don't think there's much restriction. I think it was just pitch whatever you want. So this was like a first-person hidden role game, where you would uh, one person was going back in time and ruining it, and like we're like, you know what always sells things? Stuff where MatPat could have like done a game theory on it, right? So if you've got like that hidden narrative, if you want to make $1 billion on your game, just trickle in some plot behind the scenes that's just like it's there, but it's not part
There's
of
a
the
purple
gameplay.
guy, and what does this
So
mean?
our
Coming up next,
our plot was literally
rumors and
like
speculation, which no one will ever confirm,
so
on game hypotheses and speculations.
absolutely. The whole idea, like for this one that we were laughing about, was that the someone's going back in time and they're playing like because you're part of like a time bureau. So someone went back in time, messed up the timeline. The whole crew goes back to fix it, but the person who went back in time and messed up in the first place is part of the crew, so the imposter or whatever, right? And the idea is that like the meta narrative going on in the background is like things you'd see on like posters or like a book that was like open already, like stuff you couldn't interact with, but it was there. You'd just see it. So the secret meta narrative the whole time, and you learn that as maps come out, is that it was like this one company that started off. I think it was like doing like trading, like spice routes, that sort of thing, moved forward until they caused a nuclear fallout. And then like they left the planet and created this like organization to keep the timeline, but it was really just like a self-policing of their own messed up timeline that they caused. So the person going back in time was actually the good guy the whole time, and you were playing the bad guys. You just didn't know it.
But that's just a hypothesis, a game hypothesis.
And you'd release it in parts too. You'd release the first two parts, and they're like, "Huh, these are loosely connected." And they'd be like hypothesizing, and then you drop a new map, and they would be like, "What does this mean?" It was a fun little idea there. Um,
So Seven Monkeys, the game.
yeah, Sure,
Okay.
I'll take it. Um, it was fun, and so like even if you don't want to do coding jams, you could do stuff on just like the design or like I mean realistically, you could do a game jam where the whole thing is paper prototyping, right? Like, no reason you couldn't.
Good.
I don't know why you would, but you could.
There's you know, tabletop or game jam
Yes.
as well,
Mm.
right? So that rather than saying, let's do a paper prototype, you can just make a game. It can be rough, but it's a board game and a tabletop game, etc. It's in the same list as the itch.io.
This.
A lot of those itch.io ones are tabletop ones.
Oh, interesting.
It just doesn't clearly
Well,
differentiate.
Yeah.
visual novel AI jam. What else we got?
I like Untitled Game Jam. That's my favorite. Uh,
There's a bunch of these.
Pizza Jam. I'll be a big. You just make Pizza Party. That game's great.
I love Pizza Party.
Dude, the art style of that game is amazing. It's so like Courage the Cowardly Dog feeling. These are cool too. Oh, rip. The first line there says that. Oh, this one's actually still active, and it's coming up here. That's cool. But I think you might need to go in person for this one. Ah,
It's on my page. I would include it.
for
I
sure.
have to click through in a way that not do. Yeah.
Yes, agreed. That art style's cute though. That's very like top-heady art that they had there. Very cute. Okay, so does anyone else have any game jams that they've participated in that we should like highlight right now? We went through a bunch that are there. We didn't really go with. We can go into them a bit more, but also like
Do you
throwing
want
it
to do
out.
like the tips and tricks and
Yeah, that's what I
how
was
to
thinking.
survive a game jam?
Well, so what I was thinking we could do is we could do some loose tips and tricks that everyone has, and then if
Mhm.
we want to, we could pick one of these two jams that are active right now, or three. Three? Is Godot Jam going right now? It is. We could pick one of them, and we can sort of like, as a group, come up with a game idea for it. And then if people later on as well want to participate this weekend, we could also incentivize whatever jam we pick as a group to participate in. We could build separate teams as well, and then we okay, so we can brainstorm a bunch of ideas. That's one thing that could be fun, right? That fit the theme. And then people could pick an idea or come up with another one and go off this weekend and come back, say, Wednesday. And we can, as part of that roundtable, people could show off their games that they made. And what I'm thinking is that if we do teams of four and everyone just sort of goes off and does teams of four, we can also incentivize you guys with gift cards, $50 gift cards. So whatever team we all vote is the best one. $200 spread between four people. Pretty nice. And that's it separately from this. That's local only. We're not going to mail a gift card to some random person wherever they are. So I think does that sound fun first? Do we want to pick a game jam first and then go through tips and tricks, or just do general tips and tricks first?
I would suggest let's do the tips and tricks on our thing, and then if during lunch break, if people want to
Sure.
look at the games and form teams or do what they want to do, then we got that time
Okay.
because we're gonna have to wait on food anyways.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
it's completely open to everyone. Does anyone have like a good tip that they like from a game jam perspective?
It might be worth first saying like why even take part in the game jam.
Sure, I'll sell them. I'll sell game jams first, and then I guess.
Necessarily a sell, right? Like, so it's worth, game jams take a good chunk of your time. Things like the global game jam are specifically only over a set number of hours, typically like a, 24, 48 hour
Yeah, typically
period.
48 seems to be the standard nowadays.
Well, I think the standard is actually changing to
Some
having
have a week
longer
now. Yeah,
period, right? Because it's trying to go against sort
12
of the
days.
the crunch culture that is all throughout the games industry, which is just sort of you work constantly all the time until you burn out.
Yeah,
Most
Kenny's
people,
is 48, but like you're saying, absolutely. Like Pirate Jam here is 2 weeks.
yeah, I think the GMTK is also longer.
Yeah, he bumped into two.
And so so it's worth noting, right? Like if you're going to get involved with a jam, think about the time commitment here. One of the nice things about a smaller jam is that it is sort of, one shot and done with. If you have a 24 hours, if you have a 48-hour period where you can just do that, that can be nice. The week-long one can be trickier just because it's, what sort of time do you have available for it? But that's up to the individual, right? But I think that's worth thinking about strategically thinking about this, not just thinking about like, what jams am I interested in, but also how would this fit within my schedule, right? It's also thinking about like why even do it in the first place. So there's sort of two main reasons people I have seen go for game jams. One is to learn.
Game jams can be a great opportunity to learn because you're sort of forced by the constraints of this to work on a thing. You're often on a team, sometimes with people you only sort of know, sometimes with a variety of experience levels, right? It can be nice to sort of force yourself to actually make a thing in a set time period, as opposed to just sort of sitting around and imagining the game you would like to someday make, right? Which is a much easier thing to do, but you can just get caught doing that for all time. The second thing people do game jams for is actually for notice, right? So, like, why are these big social media groups? Why do they get the biggest number of participants? Well, it's because they're going to showcase the winners.
Mhm.
And having the winners showcase is a great way to get eyes on an indie developer.
Heck, there's like two pretty big games that have come out in like last 5 years that started in game jams. There's Baba's You,
Hmm.
huge game, and that one's very close to how it was in the game jam, just built out to a full game. And then was it Roller Dome?
There's more than just two.
For sure, but two ones
Um,
that I can think of off the top of my
sure,
head,
sure, sure.
for sure. Roller Dome started off as like a top-down game with like guns and rollerblading, and then he switched to a full like third-person shooter style game,
Well,
right? Like,
wait, when you think about like Matthew there, and even going to like the Edmonton convention, the game convention
ACC,
there,
yeah.
there was the booth for University of Alberta, but a lot of the games that he was doing, even in his own lab, the indie developers, one door down from that,
Mhm.
was coming out of what they did inside of that,
Totally.
out of probably from some game jams developments there.
I think they're actually all from the courses,
Yeah.
but no, but you're totally right that a game jam can be a great way to like experiment with an idea that you're thinking about pursuing. But my broader takeaway here was that like um, the attention economy is the way that you can survive as an indie, right? If you do not have a big following as an indie, you cannot make enough money to survive as an indie. You need enough people who are watching the things you're doing, who will give money to you either through like a Patreon for updates or for, buying the game, for example, to be able to actually survive. And so looking at people who have these massive followings, this is a way of leeching followers off of them so that you can actually build up this sort of cultural cachet, this attention
But they
economy.
paid in exposure.
But it actually is in this case, right?
Honestly, though.
This is how they're getting people to take part. And people like GMTK, right? Like Mark Brown will go on his YouTube channel and he will play the games that are part of it and like shout out the ones that are interesting
Yeah, he
and
does
get
like a
attention
top
on it.
50, like a whole YouTube video that's like an hour long where he just quickly goes through his like top 50 favorites that he did, right? And
Well,
Exactly.
even there when we did Proc Jam,
Hmm.
it's Julie going through every single game, every single system inside of it, doing a YouTube video where going through all those developments.
oh yeah, the one we looked at the other day with the art and stuff. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. Who's that guy?
I don't know. Yes, Jupiter.
That's clearly someone else. He has hair.
Yeah, that's a very
Academics always have photos that are like 5 to 10
well. That
years out
one
of date.
was that was at the time that we did this. That was actually about 2 years old.
There you go, 5 years out of date.
So now it's
Well,
seven.
it's definitely not a date.
I like how it's out of focus. That's my favorite part.
No, it's perfectly in the background is out of its. I'll show you the full.
But yeah, no, that's fair.
I
So exposure and also the limited,
yeah.
lots of reasons.
Well, it's thinking about like time commitments. Do you have the time for it?
Mhm.
Exposure, what can you get out of it? And also, can you potentially experiment with a game idea, similar to paper prototyping, right? In this case, you rapidly, in 48 hours, can test out, hey, does this game idea have legs? How easy would this be to build into a real thing?
Makes sense. I think like coming from the other side of the game jams as well is because they give you like a hard theme to work off of typically, the restriction sort of breeds creativity, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily make
There's a big
we look
thing
at
that happens with people, and that is we are, I'm not procrastinating. I'm doing side quests. My shirt today kind of meets with this definition. Humans are not very good at, doing things where it's going to take a delayed gratification of a year, 2 years to do something. Three, four, yeah, exactly. And so if you are having that sort of procrastinating, like one of the big things is creating false deadlines.
Mhm.
And they teach this with everybody, like, okay, so the whole thing is due at this time, but do like, one paragraph per day, and like that's your deadline on that paragraph. It has to be done today. So a game jam is really, in a way, a false deadline.
Mhm.
In a lot of these, nobody's going to care if you submit on time or if you end up completing the project or
Work
that.
on it after the fact. Like you can do whatever you want,
Exactly.
but at least you have to have something within that
Right. And so
deadline
that
push
kind
you.
of structures that space. And that's one of the ways where I know in my own ones where we were having game jams where it was like a week and whenever you can get it in. I knew I was doing mine on the last day. Also because it was kind of like I had other stuff that week to do always. But that's the thing is can you make that time commitment? Can you do that? And then when we're worried about crunch and things like that, it's very close to almost going to like a convention or going to like a big event like that, right? Get your 8 hours of sleep, get your shower in per day, make sure you eat food, right? Like,
Don't
it's
burn yourself out because
don't
you're going to
burn
do your best
yourself.
coding when you're actually alive and not
Yeah,
a
yeah.
corpse.
So it's also in a way kind of trains you up for that sort of period and learning kind of like, okay, what am I capable of doing in that? And I see a lot of people going to the first game jam and they're like, I'm just going to program for 3 days, and they burn out by day three. They are coming in and not much is getting done with it. So treat it as if you're going to, a gaming convention, an anime convention, or whatever. What's the rules that we have on those? Well, it's the same rules that you should have, right? Get some sleep, get food, get a shower, because you're going to be around other human beings.
It was 2 years ago, where we went to one of the panels at GDC about game jams. And one of their tips was sort of like a timeline that they had, like of a broken down timeline of how you want sort of your planning and your coding and your end results to work. So they typically advise that it's like your first evening, you might not type a single thing down, right? Because the game jams typically start at like 6. You want to go to bed at like midnight. So they're like, that first 6 hours might just be literally like, oh, brainstorming a bunch of different game ideas, picking your favorite, splitting up, planning out sort of like a Gantt chart, like with a workload plan, splitting the workload between different people, right? Like the first night might literally just be planning.
There's a lot of stuff when it comes to good planning, and a lot of this even comes out of the U.S. military, in where they have these kind of planning sessions for, okay, we're going to do this operation. And a lot of it amounts to you shouldn't be spending more than half of the time that you have on planning for the next, because you're giving that next group the ability to do their planning. And so if you've got, a mission that's supposed to happen in a day, you have 12 hours that you can plan, and then you have to give that, however it is, to the next unit down. You have to give them 6 hours to plan and give them three and all the way down to wherever you're going. And because the rest is going to be execution on it. And there's other things like 80-20 principles, right? You're going to have 80% of the stuff is going to be completed and 20% of
At the
the
time,
time
yeah.
and things like that. So with a game jam, some of it is also learning how to not be a perfectionist and when to stop. Like stop the design, stop the thing, stop. Okay, is that pixel in exactly the right place on this sprite? Is it good enough? And so there's a lot of stuff there where even like the animations that we saw, right? Like those kind of quality of life things, if it's taken too much time to do those really fine detailed animations on it, can you get it so it has that sort of feel, but in a quicker way? And so it also teaches you how to kind of cheat
Totally.
and to do these things in a quicker manner. That's really valuable. But from a, hey, I'm going to create a full like product and I've got a whole bunch of people, that can be rather damaging too. So same sort of thing with like competitive programming, where competitive programmers are not necessarily great software engineers, but
And
they're,
I
yeah,
I think one other thing to note is that like you were saying, where it's like get something not necessarily perfect, but like functional,
good
right?
enough.
Good enough, yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's no reason you can't work on it past that. Most people don't. Most people they'll finish the jam and they'll put it up on itch and they'll leave it forever. But you can go back and make changes. So just an example here. These are the two games we did for a game jam. This is Cloudy. We made it with Bolt because I didn't learn how to code yet. Uh, I'm not going to show you it, but it's a basic game where the whole idea was that there was supposed to be two states of being in the game jam theme, right? So we have good weather and stormy weather. And when you change it with the button press, it changes the direction that the clouds are moving. If instead of moving left and right, they move up and down, and it's a platformer. Nothing crazy. But for Infestation here, this is sort of like a Vampire Survivor style game. Um, out of spite, because someone was like, "Hey, nobody works on game jams after the fact." I was like, "Oh yeah, bet." So if you look here, there's a list of different like logs here where I went through after the game jam was over, and I think for 2 weeks straight, I went in once a day and did like an hour where I just added in one small feature. Just like you can work on game jams after the fact, right? You're like, it's not uploaded and done necessarily, but that's how most people do it. So you've got that sort of freedom that way, right? Um, One thing also I wanted to point out that's kind of relevant is because it's a game jam, a lot of the times you might need to pull in like additional like tools to sort of save you time. So if you're not like super good at animation, I just want to sort of point out that if you are working in a 3D space, Mixamo is very good and very free. Mixamo, you basically upload a 3D model, and it'll give you you pick animations, and then you can download them with your model, and very fairly easy to work with, very quick at least. And then there are obviously other things out there too, like Anything World here. This is very similar to Mixamo, but instead of just humans, they've got other body types. What else is relevant in here? Kenny. Like, there's lots of stuff in here. ProBuilder's really good at quickly prototyping out basic maps in Unity in a very like quick jank sort of setup there. There's lots
So,
of stuff.
so what would you want to do? Like, there's usually rules about what you're allowed to bring into the room with you, and that you're not allowed to really work on something ahead of time.
Hmm.
But how would you, if you were given all the money and time in the world beforehand, what would be the tips for preparation?
I think it helps to make sure you've got food planned. Some bevies as well. You need water. Make sure you've got like a plan for your not coding side of things ahead of time would help. Make sure you've got a space to do it in. Some sort of communication method planned. Probably Discord, but make sure you've got an idea of how you're going to do that for sure. Um, what else is relevant as far as planning ahead of time goes? Obviously, like for Infestation, I before that I went through and I just sort of the week before I was like, I'm just gonna watch a bunch of tutorials so that I have like a fundamental understanding of how things might
Yeah.
work and out sort of
The
things I could pull in.
the other thing I could see is if you've got a team, have those kind of meetings about, okay, what's our division of labor? How are we going to handle certain situations? Because you don't want to be kind of in the act and then trying to do team development and when you're in the planning process and having to do those kind of like, oh, who are you and what's your skill sets and all that, you kind of want to have that maybe figured out ahead of time.
Mhm.
Anything you want to add to what to do to be coordinated?
Yeah, I mean, if you know the theme, you can certainly do some ideation ahead of time, right? So you can do some brainstorming. That's perfectly valid. You definitely should have a plan in terms of how the team is going to be managed. It can be helpful, particularly for a jam, to have somebody who is going to be like the project manager or things like that. If that's you, you can certainly volunteer, and that can be great experience, right? This can be resume building experience in terms of like, hey, I have an experience leading a team and these sorts of things, right? But you have to make sure that everybody has agreed in terms of like who gets to make what kinds of calls, because you are going to have to make calls, right? Your initial idea, because every initial game idea is going to be way out of scope. You are not going to have the time to finish it.
Always bigger than what you
It's always, you're going to be cutting up until the last minute.
there's
For
I have,
Joseph's class, our first game idea was like, we're gonna make Titanfall 3, and then we're like, that's a joke. We need to pull back. We're
yeah,
gonna make a first-person shooter, and
very
even
common.
that felt out of scope.
have you seen out of under scope
Yeah,
system?
yeah. If you scare them enough,
Fear
um,
got into them.
It's like
yeah, you gotta work on it. It's taken me years, but I've gotten to the point where I can get them to start with an underscoped game. And only some teams. Other teams, of course, are just like, they're full of ADHD energy and they want to make everything. Um, uh, yeah. I hadn't noticed. No,
No,
what a surprise. Oh, weird.
shocking.
Gavin?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess I know now. Um, And then in terms of like, yes, in terms of the timing of this, you can spend part of your time planning. I would probably not recommend spending your first 6 hours just on planning.
I'm
I
just quoting someone else.
Sure.
Some ambiguous person who I can't remember who said it,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So
no
we
one
can
can follow
blame
up and prove
them.
me
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, yeah. I think in general you want to try to get making something as soon as possible in a game jam. I think if you're spending more than like an hour or two on the planning of it, you're way over scoped in all
That makes
likelihood.
sense, yeah.
You need to really be focused on like, well, let's just see what we can get working, right? And in general, in game jams, in general, for most projects, most game projects, actually, I highly recommend trying to have always have something that is playable, right? So when you're starting with a paper prototype, it's playable. You should then try to have the core game loop of the game working and playable as soon as possible. It doesn't matter if it's jank. It doesn't matter if it looks bad. It doesn't matter if there's no sound effects. Have something running all the time, and then the time is spent on iterating that thing, as opposed to like, oh no, we created this epic 5-part story, and it's day 3. We have 2 hours left, and we have 3 parts done, and now it's really obvious that we just ran out of time, and the end doesn't work.
I really like Mr. Credits video on minimal viable product.
Sure, yeah, minimal
Showing
products are great.
what's actually doable inside of a time period. What is it? It's at least kind of the breakdown on Mario is probably the best part of that. And here's a cube jumping over another cube. And even in your own presentation yesterday, it was, here is a cube. We will do stuff to a cube. And then later on, you were like, okay, now I'm going to put the model in. Now I'm going to go and do that. Yeah.
Split it up so there's always something there.
Yeah.
Don't wait until like, okay, level 1 is perfect. Now to go on to levels 2 through 9. What do you mean there's 1 hour left?
I would even think one really good level is maybe better than levels two through
Sure, but
nine
if
barely
you
working.
plan
But
it
yeah.
out 9 levels,
Yeah. Yeah.
Overplan.
Yeah.
the game in such a way that you're like, we kind of have to have this or it doesn't work as a game. Oops, you've broken
Yeah.
everything, right? It's something spend more time reading class about what totally.
Yeah.
Now,
It if if your core gameplay loop doesn't work, the game doesn't work.
yeah,
If it's yeah, yeah,
but yeah, generally you want to like reuse, reduce, recycle, right? So if you find something not working, figure out is there a part of this that is working, right? Even if it's just the motion control or something, right? And then reducing scope, always, you gotta reduce the scope.
yeah.
And you can think about right? Can you not just like take bits of this, but can you reimagine what's going on, right? Maybe you had some sort of like power up picking up thing, and now it's an inventory management thing, or etc. Right? Like Overwatch was originally going to be an MMO, and then it turned into what was quite a nice game for a while until they destroyed it.
Yeah.
So like,
I will give Overwatch this. They're doing a better job of like Overwatch 2's like sort of transfer of stuff than Smite is.
sure, but just because there's one bad game doesn't mean we need to say that
For sure.
it's better or worse than another bad.
You're right. Why pick the lesser of evils when there's non-evils out there?
There's better games to play.
Just go play something good instead. Stop playing League.
Exactly.
I hit plat. I'm not gonna stop. I'm good now.
Yeah, I found that kind of happened with Team Fortress because it started out, okay, this is relatively balanced, and they started adding in all these things, and now it's like people jumping around wanting hats, and I don't understand what happened there.
Fortnite started off as Fight the Storm, and then they made the BR mode, and now it's completely
Well, they
left
stole it. They're in the battle.
for sure.
Which
And they
which
also left people like me who bought the Fight the Storm mode hanging.
which stole all of it from
Oh, I
Battle
mean,
Royale.
literally stole. They took all the code from Player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they got away with that? Oh, that's
Player Battleground was built into Unreal Engine.
oh.
They had all their code, and they were like, "Oh, you know what is selling well? Player Battleground. You know what isn't selling well? Our weird PVE Fortnite thing."
$200 on it. Let me.
You know what we own? The code because we had the license. Yeah, you gave us the
You
license.
gave us
Yeah.
the cool one, and you said that we owned your code. Guess what? Now we have your server code, idiots.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I'm guessing,
so to them, they sign the loan.
yeah, I'm guessing Godot doesn't have that sort of agreement where the Godot owners,
There's
because it's open source, right?
vulnerability
Yeah.
source.
So your code is yours then.
Well, sort of. If you contribute to the joint Godot project, you make something that goes into the Godot project, then it's everybody's.
What about your games? Those
Your
you
games is yours unless you upload them somewhere, right?
okay? But so no one's stealing your code if you're using the Godot engine
Sure, sure. But
legally.
also Epic isn't going to just steal like, oh no, I made an indie game in Unreal. I'm going to steal
Fair enough.
all of it.
Okay,
Why would they care?
that's fair. They're also in a pretty good place now with the fact that they like put Guitar Hero in Rock Band. They're putting COD in Rock Band, Rocket League in Rock Band, in sorry Fortnite. Sorry, all these different games that they're just building in that one like framework.
Exactly.
Because Gabe N does not already have all of the money. We would like the money that is left, please.
God, the amount of lawsuits that are being pushed towards Steam for having like a monopoly on PC gaming marketplaces.
Well,
Um,
the Epic Store and all that already had a whole thing.
yeah, but nobody likes the Epic launcher.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have like anything that they wanted to share to the group as far as their game jams sort of like experiences or tips or tricks or anything along those lines, or kind of went over everything, and then I think after we'll pause the stream while we wait for food and maybe do a little pick a jam brainstorming session.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Gavin.